Communications Legislative Committee to put this on the regular agenda. I was under the impression that it was going to be on the regular agenda, but I was reminded at that committee meeting that we would be hearing it, that every director had the right to pull a consent item. 2 weeks ago, when I attended the Communications Committee, the committee voted 3-2 to table the matter. Our chair, Sean Delane, read a provision. I'm not sure if it was out of the board policy manual or where it came from, but he said that when a motion was tabled, that it could not be heard again for a year. So it was for that reason that I asked that it be placed on the regular agenda so that there could be a full board discussion in front of the public about whether or not we should video stream. In talking to Director Green, I had said, well, why don't we just videotape everything and just put it on? It doesn't necessarily need to be done live. And she didn't correct me, but she made me understand that it probably would be a better idea to do live streaming so that there could be any claims from the public later that the tapes had been manipulated, and I do agree with that. But in this day and age, you can download a free app on your iPhone and you can video stream to the internet. It's my belief that this chamber looks like the Starship Enterprise, and I don't think it would take too much to acquire the equipment to be able to stream this live and to archive the videotapes online. The majority of cities in our county, there are 34 of them, allow you to pick up agendas from years back. As in the case of the city of Fullerton, you can not only read the agenda, but you can pair the agenda with the videotape of the entire meeting. That permits, we have people who come down and want to comment on an item when we have a particularly hot subject, and they're in their jammies at home watching it. They get dressed and they run down to the council meeting to put in their 2 cents. In this day and age, it is extremely important that the public has access to information. Here, the staff has estimated that in order to do internet streaming, that it would cost somewhere between $15,000 and $50,000, but we don't know what it is because there was no direction from our committee to ask staff to check out what different methods of internet streaming we could do and what the cost would be. But I would like to call to your attention that on our consent calendar today, we authorized $150,000 to upsize air conditioning for 2 labs. We approved a $20.4 million construct and operate for 4 injection wells in the city of Santa Ana. Their admin finance, number 15 on our consent calendar, was to effectuate a $3.7 million savings by refunding certain certificates of participation in favor of lower interest debt instruments. So I don't think a good argument can be made that the district doesn't have the monies, or we should be saving money. Last month, or the last board meeting, I suggested that we consolidate our committees with our board meetings, and by doing that, we would save approximately $106,000 annually by just having a couple of meetings on the same day as the board meeting. That did not fly. At the last board meeting, we approved on the consent calendar a $43,000 change order to a contract with Discovery Science Center that was approved in June of 2012 for $1.23 million for our Water Education Corridor project. Water Education Corridor project, I don't know anything about it, but it sounds to me like it's public outreach. There are many components to public outreach. Public outreach is education, but nothing is more public outreach than admitting the public to see what we do at our board meetings. Since 4 very important committee meetings are held every month here at the Orange County Water District, and since they are noticed as joint meetings between the committee, joint meetings of the committee, as well as the board-in-chief, the parent legislative body, we actually have a minimum of 6 board meetings per month. That's an impossible task for the average citizen if they are interested in a subject. As every single one of us in this room are aware, we have a big project coming up, Poseidon. And we need the cooperation and we need the input not only of our Orange County Water District staff, the Poseidon people themselves, but we also need to hear from the community, because if this project is approved without the blessing of the residents in Orange County and the people, and the approval of people who care about this subject, we will always look like we don't care about what the public has to say, and we would have missed an opportunity to share our opinions about this very important subject. I have questions about the way in which the Citizens Advisory Committee was selected. I have been told that there is such a committee. It has just been stayed for a while, I think at the request of Director Anthony, because the time is not right to put it into position. But for all of these reasons, I think that it is very short-sighted of this board to table this for a year when we have such an enormous project that is generating such public interest, to scotch that because it has a cost of maybe $50,000 a year. So I strongly encourage my fellow directors to support directing staff to go out and investigate this. They can come to the city of Fullerton.
I'll second your motion if that's a motion.
Are you trying to shut me up?
You're going to lose this if you don't get to the point.
I've made my point, but because of the experience that I had in committee, I'm concerned that there's not enough votes to carry the day here. And if it's tabled, I don't get to bring it back for a year. I'm concerned about that, and I would like to.
There's no motion to table before.
Well, there's a recommendation.
Committee, which means nothing. Just bring the item to us.
I know, but it makes me gun shy.
Well, then make your motion, I'll second it.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right, and then if it fails, we're missing, how many?
I don't know.
3 directors.
It's not very nice missing.
If it's tabled,
It's not going to be tabled, once this board tables it. Committee can't.
all right, I move that we direct staff to investigate this. You can call the city of Fullerton, I'll direct you to 3 people over there that can
I'll
help
second your
you.
motion again.
Thank you.
Well, since it came up before, I had a little bit of casual what?
Director Sedalis next.
I'm sorry.
You want to put your light on? Director Sedalis.
Thank you, Director Green. You know, I've been used to, when I was at the city council, very transparent. I mean, we used to record every meeting, and it was shown on the channel 3 almost 24/7, 7 days a week. These are the meetings, you know, it's just live out there. People get to know what we have discussed and who said what and what the public has to say. I mean, it was a good interaction. So in this age, I think Director Ford is right that we need to be better informed, and it takes such a small amount of money to have the public have an access at different steps to see what is going on inside the situation. So I'm totally with this because I've been used to it, and I think people have spoken in the city of Anaheim about a few of the issues that are right there. So
It's going to be 3-3.
I like the idea. And
What happens
I'm
then?
glad that it's brought up now.
So
Not because the public
It's gonna be
is asked for it,
Since the last time we talked about this at the committee meeting, I've done a little bit of casual research. And I think the cost on this is very, very minimal. And we should definitely have the staff analyze the cost, the options, and what can be done, and bring it back to us soon.
Director Barr?
Well, I just, since this has come up, I've done some research with some of the people in Garden Grove, and some of them I would consider community leaders. I haven't found a single person that is even interested in streaming at all. And,
They do it in Garden Grove.
I just don't know what the cost is.
On TV.
I think that we're kind of flying blind on this thing. And, I just, in defense of this board, because we're being criticized so strongly for many things, one thing I think people should be aware of, and we don't ever get credit for the amount of time it takes to prepare for a meeting. This is a pretty small agenda. We had an agenda last year that weighed 19 pounds. It took me, I can't tell you how many days to prepare for a meeting. We don't get credit for that, but we're being criticized very strongly from a lot of people. And for an example, when you talk about public outreach, I don't know how many people remember the 10 years that we spent selling groundwater replenishment. And the countless hours that the board members and the staff spent in selling and making that become a reality. We don't hide anything. And it's been criticized that none of the directors can have copies of the minutes of the executive committee meeting. All they have to do is ask. That's not secret. And, I just kind of resent that I'm being placed in a position where I feel like that people feel I'm being dishonest. I try my best to do a good job, and I prepare for my meeting. I've read every page of this agenda. And I mean, you don't do that in 30 minutes. That's fairly typical agenda. And some of the people that are coming up here and talking to us now, I don't really recall seeing them before, Dan came back on the board, and I know that you're helping them with some of the information that they're doing, and that's fine. If that's what they want and need, I have no problem with that. But I've been on this board 35 years, and I mean, some of these people I've never seen before until, say, the last 6-8 months, whatever it is. We've never tried to hide anything. And I think we've been, because there's a closed door policy, when did we start closing those doors for security reason? After 9/11?
Yes, but they always are open during committee meetings.
I know they are, but I mean, when we started having closed doors, it was after 9/11, and there was some talk about terrorism for water districts. And that's when there started being a little bit conscious of security. But we've never blocked anybody from coming to a committee meeting. So, I mean, there have been reasons why you see locks on some of the doors. And I think I have to kind of defend this board that, I think we're all pretty honorable. I don't agree with everybody all of the time, but in my 35 years, with very few exceptions, I think the quality of the people that have been on this board is stellar.
So why not
And
stream?
I just have to kind of, nobody else will give us a pat on the back, and since I'm going to be leaving in December, after 35 years, I'm going to give everybody a pat on the back, and I'm telling you, the staff you have at this Orange County Water District is the best staff and the best family members that I have ever worked with.
Stream it.
And
so
I've
we
worked
can see
with
it.
many, many boards over my years. I spent over half of my life in some form of community service. And you have a staff that is unbelievable.
Stream
They
it
are
so the
top-notch
public can
in
see it.
every manner, and they are always available to the public if there's a problem. I guess that's all I have to say.
I agree with you. That's well said, well said.
I get a little upset now and then. I don't talk very often, but when I do, I have to get it out.
We have a motion and a second. I personally am going to abstain. I don't even think this should have been on the agenda. I think if you tabled that, it should have died at committee. Okay, all, please vote.
It's a terrible.
Doesn't the public get to speak now on this? Are they supposed to do
Whatever
it?
comes to the committee has got to move on the board.
Doesn't the public get to speak on this now? Shouldn't the public get to speak now on this?
Oh, yes,
Director, I'm sorry, Director Yo.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I pressed my button too late.
Sorry.
But I'm going to abstain from that for the same reason that Kathy has stated. I feel,
all right.
that's why we have discussion at a committee level and we make recommendations. But if it's not passing through the committee level, I don't think we need to regurgitate it at the board. know, the meeting is open to the public, and there was a gentleman in the back kept arguing that, saying that then stream it. Well, I could argue that maybe we should all just video conference. Why are we gathering here? You know, this is an open forum. You're welcome to come and give your opinion. We're here to listen to you, you know? And I just don't, this is getting a little,
Director
I'm sorry.
Shepherd?
Wow. Wow.
Joel and Mike, on the tabling, the 1 year rule, I'm not familiar with that. I don't believe that's a policy that we've adopted.
I'm unaware of the district adopting a policy either for tabling generally or for tabling 1 year in particular.
Director Dwayne, I believe, made the comment during the meeting that at Mesa, they have a policy to table, and then the item is approved for 1 year. So it did not pertain to the water district, it contained to Mesa Water
So,
and their rules.
Director Flores.
Conflict of office.
1 year, while a legitimate concern, I share a concern, it's not, that is not our rules of our rules of procedure.
I believe even at the committee, I said I would like to wait until a few other things are firmed up before we hear this item again. I've not changed my mind on that, that's all. I never heard of a 1 year rule. I was just delaying that vote until I had some other information. Director Yo. Okay, Director Floyd.
Also agree with everything you said, and I was a little bit shocked when I saw the Surf City Voice article that characterized my comments as pertaining to secret meetings, because I had never said that. I knew executive committee meetings were being conducted, but I didn't feel excluded from that, although I didn't know when they were held, I didn't know what was on the agenda, etc. So if you caught any criticism of this board from that article, it was not coming from me. My concern had to do with technical legalities, which I do want to talk to our district attorney about, and I do want him to prepare a legal memorandum to the board on 2 issues. One having to do with whether or not the executive committee is a standing or an ad hoc committee. When I raised the issue last month, I was told that there were very few items of specific concern that were involved. In the meantime, John Earl copied to me 17 agendas that he had procured through a request for public records. And when I went through that, there was no question that there were many issues that pertained to personnel, that pertained to contracts, that pertained to policy decisions, all of that, which meant, according to this Attorney General's opinion, that the executive committee is a standing committee and therefore subject to Brown Act requirements. I ran this by our City of Fullerton attorney. He concurred with my assessment. But I am a divorce attorney, not a Brown Act attorney, and would like to see our district attorney give us a memorandum about that. The AG's opinion was quite specific, that it did not matter whether it was irregularly scheduled, it did not matter whether it was called by the chair or whoever, but there are sufficient concerns that if this board needs a course correction, I'm sure that the directors will authorize that. But we need to be properly informed about that, and I'll give you the sites that I've got to help you in that exercise. But at the end of the day, the public is entitled to get as much information as it wants or can get. And in fact, this particular paragraph is really meaningful. The people of this state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people in delegating authority do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed, so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. That says it all. So I would encourage my fellow directors to support staff's mere investigation into this issue.
Director Hill?
Thank you. I just want to make a common sense observation here that if there is anything that we're trying to hide, we could easily just make phone calls or emails and have a meeting offsite. We don't have to agendize
You've done that,
something
actually.
and get an official
You've done that.
communication from the general manager stating that why we're convening and what we're discussing. It just so happened that some of the issues happen to be cited. You think that there is something bad happening.
612.
And you know, I don't appreciate that because
612.
not all of us are in agreement with moving forward with the project. So for you to come here and give us big cheap shots at some of us, it's unappreciated. Just want to make that clear to me.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
Why don't you read the motion for our late arrival?
Thank you.
Please state the motion.
Director Sarmiento, the motion was to direct staff to explore the various ways in which internet streaming can occur and what the cost would be. Director Anthony indicated that he had done some preliminary investigation on his own and he believes that the cost would be even more modest than the $15,000 to $50,000 that staff previously estimated.
I did second the motion.
No, I don't. Mike's already on.
If you did get requested.
But I'll respond just because I didn't hear the conversation, so I feel a little bit, sort of not really prepared to vote on this, but I think if it's just a simple direction for further inquiry on pricing, I think I can be supportive of that.
Are we voting yet? Yeah, exactly.
That motion fails with 5 directors voting yes. Director Barr abstained, Director Green abstained, Director Yo abstained, Director Bilodeau and Julian absent.
A new record extension voting. Never had that many extensions in history.
Moving on to
I wanna hear
item
about that.
16,
Let's move on. Right?
statewide groundwater management.
May I ask our district attorney, does that mean that the vote fails where we have a quorum and we have 5 yeses? Is that a failure?
Yes, it is. We have a provision of the District Act that requires 6 affirmative votes for any matter to pass. With the exception that there are 2 or 3 items that we consider every April that require a supermajority of 8 out of the 10.
So although we have a quorum, the majority of the quorum does not fail.
Majority of the body.
That's correct. It requires a majority of the body. It's like certain city council actions that require 3 affirmative votes of the council regardless of how many council members there are.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam President.